Hello, welcome to American Sign Language Storytime official week 12. Official week 12, very exciting. Um, as always, hi, I'm Miss Sammy, Sammi, Sammy. And this is this is Miss Lakin. And for this week, we're doing something a little different. We thought it would be fun to review all of the words that we have learned in the past weeks of story time. So we're going to go book by book by book and review the words that we learned so that this is kind of like the go-to key for all of our words, our list of words. Okay, so if you recall, 3 months ago when we started this, we read the story I'd really like to eat a child. And that book is about a crocodile who wants to eat a child. So again, for crocodile, you make some nice teethy fingers and you smash them together. And for, when you're hungry and you want to eat something, you can try to kind of put your hand together, put something into your mouth because you want to eat. And a child kind of mime like patting them on the head. So those were week 1 words. Week 2, we read swarm of bees. And the first word that we learned was bee. So you made a bee and you kind of pinpricked yourself on the cheek, a bee. And we also learned in that story there was a boy who was throwing tomatoes. So we learned how to say tomato. So you make a like tomato-like shape and make a little pointy finger and kind of slice up the tomato. And why was the boy throwing tomatoes? Because he was angry. So you make, again, those stiff fingers, kind of like with your crocodile teeth, and you stiff finger and you bring them up. And if you can make an angry face, that's even better. Angry. The next week, we read extra yarn. And when we read extra yarn, the first word we learned was more. You tap your fingers together for more. We also learned how to say finished. Like, I am finished with that. I am done. And finally, because we had learned angry the week before, we thought it was important to learn happy. Happy. That was week 3. For week 4, we read normal pig. We actually learned 4 words this week because we had pig, where you keep your hand kind of flat and underneath your chin, you wiggle your fingers together. But we also learned that if you wiggle your fingers separately underneath your chin, it means dirty. So kind of cool. We also that week learned the word for mom. And we also learned the word for dad. So mom, you tap on your chin, and dad, you tap on your forehead. Forgot the word for forehead for a second. The following week, we read I Want a Dog. And so this was a story about pets. And so you pet your hand, maybe like you're petting a dog. And since the word that what we wanted in that story, we wanted to get a pet dog. So you snap and you hit your leg for dog, which may be a really good way to call a dog. Maybe dogs are really good at sign language. We'll find out. The last word we learned for that story is no. And depending on your facial expression and how serious your no can be, yeah, maybe it's like just like, no, I don't want that, or no, I really don't like that. You know, facial expressions are really important when you're signing because they help kind of tell your story, which is really cool. We, the following week, learned we didn't learn, well, we learned some signs, but we read the greedy goat. And the first word we learned for that story is goat. And so you flick your 2 fingers on your chin where the goat's beard would be, and then on your forehead where the goat's little teeny tiny horns would be. So chin, forehead was goat. We also learned the word for new. So you're like scooping in your hand to try something new. And the last word we learned in that story was farmer. So you tap your cheeks with your hand, and then you make straight line for a person. So a farmer. Awesome. You guys are doing some great review. We're about halfway, so nice job. We've learned so many words, huh? The following week we read Mr. Tiger Goes Wild. This is one of my favorite books. We learned the word for friend. Kind of, are these your pointer fingers? Yes, you take your pointer fingers and kind of crick them together. We also learned the word for tiger, which is you make the tiger stripes on your face. And the last word we learned in that story was city. So we make little rooftops of a city. Very cool. For week 8, we read Grandpa Green. And if you remember, we have already learned the word for mom and dad. And what's cool about grandpa and grandma, which are 2 of our words, is they're like modifications of those signs. So grandpa, tap on your head and kind of bounce away. And grandma, same thing, kind of to show the generations going back. In that book, we also learned the word for stories. So you kind of pull your fingers apart. An important word to know, because you can say, I'd really like to read some stories with you. Do you want to read a story with me? A good question for any grown up at home or older sibling. They're probably pretty good at doing some reading with you. Okay, we're coming up on the end soon. Week 9, we read You Are Not Small. And so we learned some sizes in this book. We learned about big. When something's really big, you tap it on the head way up here. And how when something's really small, you can show that like this.
You show with your body too.
Yeah, with your body. Excellent point. So like, oh, it's teeny tiny, but whoa, it's so big up here. Big and small are 2 of our words. And then we also learned how to say same. And depending on which way your same sign is facing, it's maybe, hold on, where is Lakin? We are the same. Or maybe it's like me and all this people in the room are the same. Or like, just maybe you're like, oh, same. I think that too. And you can just be like, yeah, we're on the same page. We get it. Same wavelength. It's actually really helpful. We use this at work a lot when we're talking at the desk. Sometimes just like, ooh, don't even need to say anything, just same. You get me. It's very helpful. Okay. Week 10, we read Our three words are the three animals in the title. So we read the wolf, where you make his snout, and the duck, where you make his little beak, and the mouse, where you kind of brush on your nose for the mouse's whiskers. So the wolf, the duck, and the mouse. And our last story that we read together was What Can a Citizen Do? And we learned the word for citizen, which, as we said when we read this story, this is the sign for person, but we were going to use it for citizen because all people can be citizens of a place. We then talked about how the world, again, this is kind of like you're shaping a globe. This sign's kind of hard. You got to keep your fingers kind of stiff so that you can start at the top of your fake globe, and you take your fingers and you follow it around your globe. And you try, and you got to start at the top. So we start at the top and we work our way around and try and create a ball. And that's the world. And then our last word that we learned together, take your hands and you kind of at your wrist, drop your wrist, and this is the word for can. What can a citizen do? Pretty cool. So we together over the last 3 months, every Wednesday, we learned all of those words. We should give each other a round of applause. Very nice work. So good. Thank you for learning with us. Thank you for joining us for American Sign Language Storytime. We've really enjoyed it. We're hoping that this is going to be a program that when the library opens again, we can continue to do. Keep an eye out for phase two, this is for two, library announcements, in your email or on Facebook or any other place, library website, places where we disperse news, because we do have some changes coming up that are pretty exciting. So we will be kind of taking a break from ASL Storytime for a little bit, but as I said, we really like doing this, so hopefully we'll do it again real soon. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later. Bye.